Good afternoon, Melanie. Thank you so much for joining me. And for our
Oh,
audience, my name is Angelina Carleton. I am a legacy planner, and I get to have the opportunity to talk with Melanie Veazey, who is also a coach, and she has been coaching for over 30 years. She is a graduate of Carnegie Mellon's Fine Arts program, and she has also developed private school programs related to dance and theater. And I wanted to have an opportunity to bring some of the tougher questions that coaches are facing today, not just for other coaches, but for anyone who might be watching this, that would like somebody to talk about some of the subject matter that I would like to bring up, because it's what I'm hearing, and it's some of the patterns, trends that I've been coming across in the last 12 months. And so I thought we'd dive deep in some of the tougher topics today. So welcome, Melanie.
thank you. It's so wonderful to be here. I'm excited. To
And
talk with you about this.
thank you so much. And is there anything about your background that I may have missed or that would be important to highlight?
Well, I'm a coach, but most of what I do is in the vicinity of the vocal and acting coach. I coach singing, I coach voice, I coach audition technique. But within that, what's so important is that the clients that come to me, I coach them to be a whole person. I want them to be their very best. So if they're anxious about something, if they're not understanding the way a role should be played, we go into their life and what's working, what's not working. How do we get out of you what needs to go into this part, or what's holding you back? What are you afraid of? So it's becoming, so I do coach the whole person, but it's kind of a specific
Got it.
niche.
So what I liked about that, what I'm hearing is reaching into their mindset, helping them grow and develop personally, and whatever obstacles that they have, unpacking that so they can grow to the next level of their evolution, step into their role, and move forward, compared to what I call staying in the loop around the airport. Another week, another month, another year. Yes. Okay. So the first question that I wanted to start with is, this is what I call all the world is a stage. So whether it is the, what I call the business side of acting, or the acting side of business, there's many different threads that overlap. So being on stage can bring one type of priceless education. What did it teach you that makes you a great coach in leading others?
Being on stage is one of the most electrifying experiences, I think, for anybody that has had the opportunity to experience it. They're kind of bitten by a bug. I almost call it, sometimes I call it an illness or a drug. Because when you get to experience this feeling of being energy, so much energy, an energy of a cast coming together and creating something, and then learning, pushing your brain and your body and your mind to learn something brand new in a short amount of time, and then come together and throw it up on stage, it's just anybody that's done it, whether you're an amateur or a professional, it's incredible. So
it's an experience.
Yes, it's an experience.
And being that you have walked through it,
yes,
you can relate to somebody. The other metaphor I have is, sometimes a coach is like a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout leader. You have to walk them through the woods to the canoe at the lake and say, well, watch out for those acorns there and those pine cones there, and step over the poison ivy. And so
Right.
being that you've experienced it, you can walk someone through not just what
Right.
happens mentally and internally, but the fact that you're going to get blasted with this energy of all eyes on you. And it's going to be this almost like a high, an
Right.
intoxicating high.
It is truly a high. So one of my favorite things to say is, I wish I had a teacher or a coach like me when I was younger, because even when I was in college, they kind of, and this was an incredible musical theater program that is still one of the top 10 in the country, is that they fed us with all of this incredible training and gave us the ability to jump off of college right into New York City with an agent and ready to go. But what they didn't do is they didn't give us the business of the business. So we kind of all floundered. Not all of us. There's a lot of people in my class that are still working, and there's a lot of people in my class that have become teachers. But so now I am able to take my clients and not only build them up, which is so important to me, building up, because who am I to take anybody's dreams away? If you want to be a performer, if you want to be an actor, if you want to be a singer, if you want to be, just better at it, then let's get you there. Let me help you.
And also helping them with that landscape of what they need to be aware of.
Right.
On the business side.
So I am now able to say, listen, there's 20 million others people that look exactly like you, that have better voices than you do, are taller than you, have, bluer eyes than you. You have to be honest with yourself when
Correct.
you're trying to achieve something that's almost impossible to achieve. And that's the nature of the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. And so what I'm hearing also is a bit of managing expectations so they don't get hurt. They don't get blindsided. And I completely can relate to that. I remember graduating from Penn State and feeling like if I ran to the middle of the football field faster and I caught the football, then that would be success. About 10 years ago, I got to the middle of the football field and I looked around and I thought, what if I don't even know the rules of the game? What if I don't even know the game that's being played? And so I think in the last 10 years, I'm kind of a little bit more cautious, whereas I think when somebody is young, they don't know what they don't know. And
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. And it also can be a benefit. But then if somebody gets hurt, that's also, it can just, whoo.
And that's what happened to me, is that I think I booked the first two things I auditioned for. And I thought, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. I booked the first two jobs that I auditioned for. It's like, okay. So then I went on the third one and I didn't get it. And then I went on the fourth one and I didn't get it. And then I went on the fifth one. And now my confidence is starting to lower.
Sure.
So, but nobody said to me, this is the way it works.
Absolutely.
This is the way. That's so I'm so able to bring that to my coaching, and I always say to my clients, you have to want it. I can't do it for you. I'm going to give you the tools,
right?
But I can't make you a better singer, a better performer, you have to want it. You have to work for it. You have to show up and do, if you're not a dancer, you have to be a dancer. Go to dance class.
Mm-hmm.
You get it.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said about that confidence piece, because here is the worldly success and here you are. And sometimes the world's going to love you, sometimes it's not, but you can still have confidence. You can still have that core foundation within you that says, I'm okay, whether the outside world loves me or not. Agree?
That's really, really important. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because this particular industry is so filled with rejection that you have to have such a self-love practice, such wonderful people around you that are going to lift you up and say, all right, so what happened? Why didn't you get that part? You know, what do we need to work on? And then you need to allow them the space to go through the rejection, the anger, the depression that follows, and then be able to say, okay, something better is coming, you know?
Yep. And so
So
one of the reasons why I'm also bringing this up is because if I think about, for instance, family businesses, what if there's a member of the next generation that says, I don't want to be that role? So now, where is that support system that says, we still love you unconditionally? So if the success is here, but they're over here, what I'm bringing up is developing the whole person. So it's important to develop the skills and the talents, but then there's also who we are when we're not on that stage.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so go ahead.
Well, I was just going to make a joke about the hard work piece. I remember growing up, my dad used to tell me, you have to want it and you have to be ready for it. And those are two very different distinctions. And what it reminds me of is one of the scenes in the beginning of the movie Jerry Maguire, where the young boy throws the golf club. Because it's not always easy, and it does take time in the growing pains.
It's not. And that's why I call it a drug, because you get hooked on it and you need a fix. And then you don't get it. You don't get it, you know, and you have to take a side job and you have to. So, you know, what is the whole person? The whole person is me saying to my clients, what do you love about yourself? What do you hate about yourself? Why do you hate that about yourself? You know, where did that come from? Stop that. You know, let's look at that. You know, I have clients that are shy, that want to be performers, and it's, you know, and I'm always baffled. And I have one teenager, and she sings so quietly, but she has such a beautiful voice. And I said to her last week, do you sing loud when you're by yourself? And she said, I do. And I said, why aren't you letting me into that? She said, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? It's just me. What's the worst thing that can happen? My voice might crack. So my voice cracks all the time. You know, it's building. There's so much pressure today, so much more pressure.
Yeah. And I was also going to add, I think that it's countercultural to say, I will love myself and fill myself no matter whether the world is offering their applause. I just think it takes a courageous person. That's just a personal opinion.
It's totally a personal opinion. You know, I still go through it when I go and audition for something and I don't get it, and it like brings me down. You know, it hurts. It hurts in my heart. And I have to pick myself up, and I have to remind myself, what are all the good things? What are all the, you know, so it's important. You have to really be intuitive with your clients. You have to be able to see through. You have to feel the energy. You have to be able to, you know, there's like, you have to lift them up for a little bit and then take it down a notch and just say, okay, let's work on this. You know, you have all that going for you. Let's work on this for a little bit. It's amazing what happens.
So here is a second question. You know, the things that come with success as well as failure. What do you think are some of the things that come with both success and failure that wasn't talked about when you were coming into either?
I think success is obviously a validation of what you've worked really hard to create. With success comes, I knew I was good at this. It's, and there's also people around you that are applauding you, that are telling you how wonderful you are. And it lifts you up. It takes you to, wow, I did that and I was so successful. I'm going to try this now. I'm, okay, I see it. My failures have allowed me to be not only sympathetic, but empathetic.
Okay.
So
to the human experience, or to
anybody, to the human experience, I'm a very sensitive person to begin with. But when a client comes to me and they're not achieving what they want to achieve, I understand them because I've been there. I've been in their shoes. It's so important to put yourself in other people's shoes, to look at things from different angles. We live in a world where everybody thinks that it's all about me, and the mindset that unfortunately no one cares. There's so much of that out there that you can spend, hours and days, let's just use Instagram for, perfecting a post and making it the way you want. And you think it's so beautiful, and, or a play, even anything. You put all your life's blood into that and you put it up and you go, there it is. There's my creation. And nobody reacts. Nobody comes to see the show. Nobody likes your post because everybody is doing their own thing, trying to get recognized, trying to get noticed, trying to get, so that they can feel that success and have great feelings and
the validation, the connection.
Yeah.
What do you think is one of the blind spots if somebody comes into success too quickly? And this is why I'm asking. There's the sector that is creating the most wealth for individuals right now is the tech sector. So somebody could be 20, 30, 40 years old, and they can find themselves to go from one lifestyle to another lifestyle. But what comes with success coming too quickly can be a multitude of things, regardless of the industry. And I wondered if you would talk about what you've seen regarding when success comes too quickly.
Well,
emotionally or in any dimension or aspect.
I think the most interesting facet of that scenario is that you think it's going to be that way always. And so you spend money thinking that it's always going to be there. That, well, that's in my bank account, and now, I've invested it a little bit, or I'm putting it into my house, or I'm going to buy a new car, and that's going to make me more successful, look successful. So I'll have all these things around me that are going to make me feel and look more successful. But it doesn't necessarily stay that way at all. You never know what's going to happen in life. You never know what the next day is going to bring. There could be a hurricane. There could be an earthquake. There could be
a stock market crash.
Yes. The stock market crashes, you know? And then all of a sudden, this whole lifestyle that you have means nothing. And so you're left with, that emptiness again, and that's why it's so important to know that your worth is not based on your worth.
Yes, I was just going to say, how does somebody make peace with that emptiness? But that's a whole other conversation for another day.
Yes.
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 Okay.
It's and I think especially during the pandemic, I think a lot of people have had to do that, is making peace with their situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that your experiences would make you an excellent mentor. And I have to wonder if some of the individuals who had parents in an industry, how much that may have assisted then the next generation with knowing what the blind spots are, what the curve balls are, because it's more than just like somebody can have a great skill of singing and dancing, but then there's all this other stuff that is not covered. Yeah. But they still walk into that. Yeah. Okay.
And I've worn, many hats over my journey as a, I've absolutely been a mentor to so many people, and have just said, okay, you're going to do this, but I just want you to think about these few things. Just plant the seed. Just plant the seed. You can still go do what you're going to do. Who am I to stop you? But just when this happens, just remember that you might want to do this or might want to do that. So it's when you, and the hardest part is when people don't listen, people don't listen, but then they find out themselves, they make the
hard
mistakes
way
themselves. Yeah.
And I was just going to add that I think coaching is also so priceless, because whether it is the entertainment industry or any industry, you need people that you can trust. And I can imagine that whether it's success or failure, that trust factor is definitely, it comes into play. Are they just talking to me because I'm successful? Are they just talking to me because I've made it big? And who will tell me the truth? Yeah.
But isn't it that way in life, no matter what you do? Why? I even had that feeling about, our discussion today. Why me? Why did she pick me? And then we self-sabotage all the time, or, just don't look at how far we've come. What are our successes, the little ones, And so whenever I have issues with Instagram, I say, yes. Well, I just think that, we all self-sabotage to some degree, and we all have this, the imposter syndrome that pops up and says, you're not good enough, or why me? Instead of embracing it and going, hey, this is cool. I'm meeting a brand new person today and talking about stuff that I love to talk about. So, you have to trust the universe sometimes and say, all right, well, let's go.
Yeah. And it's good to understand how to work with fear also, because it's always going to be there and just kind of built into our instincts. So speaking about fear, I'd like to dive deep into a topic. And I wondered what you might have to say about this topic. It has to do with being method actors. Would you like to maybe define simply what a method actor is for somebody that might not know?
Is somebody that is reading a script and finds out that their character has an alcohol problem. In order to prepare for the role, the actor will start drinking.
Okay.
So that they can understand what it's like to be an alcoholic. They can feel it. It's not my favorite, method, being a
Okay.
method actor.
Okay.
Because there's safer, healthier ways to do that kind of thing. I mean, absolutely. If you can experience something safely, like is an avid rider of roller coasters, well, sure, then go ride some roller coasters. Or, um, as a gardener, then take up gardening and see how that feels. So, uh, but method actors a lot of times have a bad rap because they get so immersed in their character that they lose themselves as a
Can
person.
you give an
And
example of
it's they of which
oh, I think there might
somebody
be a
becomes somebody.
yeah, maybe
A
someone that
delay.
we
Yeah.
might, yeah, there's a 5-second delay. Someone we
Ask that
might
again.
know, someone we might know in a
Okay.
mainstream movie.
Oh, sure. Um, Dustin Hoffman is notoriously a method actor. I think Meryl Streep is too. Um, it's just a school of immersion. I want you to really feel it and know whereas the difference is, um, in order to become an alcoholic, I'm going to watch. I'm going to go to bars and sit and watch that person. I'm going to watch movies. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to understand how to put that character on, try it on. So, I think that doing it the other way, imagining as if it has happened to you. So you have to really use your imagination and say, what if you're an actor that gets really sick riding roller coasters? How are you going to do that? So you have to imagine it. So, so being a method actor is very all consuming, and I think can be unhealthy because
Okay.
you can't separate yourself from, and then what you see is, especially people that are playing really serious roles, they almost can't come out of it at the end of the shoot, at the end of the play. They can't, it takes, sometimes they have to go to therapy because they've embodied this character so full on that, it's hard to break free from it.
Yeah. The metaphor I sometimes use is if there's a 6-foot trench, like if we think about World War I or II, if the human mind does that enough times, becomes so familiar, it becomes what they fall back into. So the reason I bring this up is because sometimes the next generation who find themselves either in an affluent family or a family business can many times have developed who their parent wants them to be, who the family wants them to be, maybe what society expects them to be, but they have not had an opportunity yet to be able to develop their actual identity. So I wanted to speak into this with you because you've seen both sides. You've seen it when an actor or an actress or anyone, it's a human being, will invest into the development of a character. And then now as a coach, how it is to develop somebody's confidence, who they are as a whole human being. And I just thought that you've kind of seen both sides. Any thoughts on that? Oh, is it frozen?
Yeah, it's that are expected to play a certain role in life. Oh, sorry, yeah, you're frozen. It's okay. And
Okay.
if you can hear me, I'll keep
Yes, I
speaking.
can hear you. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so there you go. I think with kids that are expected to behave a certain way and assume certain roles in life are often very unhappy because they haven't been allowed to explore who they truly are. And a lot of times you, a lot of times you see these kids rebel, and because they never were allowed to express themselves. Or it becomes a midlife crisis because they did what society said. You know, they went to a good college, they got their master's degree, they found their wife at college, they lived together, they got married, they had a dog, then they had a boy and then a girl. And it's, you know, everything that society said. And then their kids are high achieving kids and life looks perfect. But what's missing, again, is your soul. You know, what are you here on this planet to do? And if you're not supporting that vision, if you're just doing what everybody tells you is right in society, then you're never going to be happy, no matter what you do, ever. So, you know, I have kids that, and when I say kids, I mean teenagers and college students that are rebelling against their parents, you know, and they're doing tattoos and nose rings and not that they, you know, of course, do what you need to do to express yourself, but I feel like they don't know themselves yet. I feel like they don't know themselves well enough. They're just saying, I'm not happy with who my mom or dad wants me to be, so I'm going to go and pierce my nose, and then I'll fit in with that group over there. Or I'm going to go and get a tattoo because that'll make me cool, and I won't have to really look at myself and see who I am. Stuff like that. So yeah, it's you know, there's a lot of characters that are being portrayed in this world.
In real life.
A lot of characters that we've had to put on and play out on our own stage.
Yeah, for survival or for expectation.
So yeah. Yeah,
yes.
For both, because too, surviving, you know, your parents want you to live a certain life. They want you to make enough money because it's expensive to live, and it's expensive to live well. So, you know, I mean, my own mother wanted me to get my master's after I did a BFA. She was like, no, you need to go get your master's. And at that point in my life, I was so tired of school. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to live, because the way to be an actor is art imitates life. So you go out and you learn and you be and you develop your acting skills. So to me at that point, a master's didn't make sense and I didn't want to do it. Now I wish I had done it. But, you know, that's what then, being a coach or a mentor, now I can say to my students, I know you don't want to go back to school. I know you want to be done, but I promise you get your master's, because it levels you up. It takes another 2 years. Go get your master's. You know, it's not a big deal. And so I can say that to them.
In hindsight. Yes.
In hindsight, right? Yeah. So, where were we?
Yep. So any other thoughts on how you might bridge those two worlds so the real life person can step off the stage and claim their whole person? Any other thoughts on it? Any other insights, advice?
You know, I think that's been a really personal journey for myself too, is figuring out who I am authentically, which is a big term right now. Be your authentic self. What does that mean? What does that mean? Be authentic. Be true to yourself. That means that you have to stop, go inside and say, how is this making me feel right in this moment? And it could be as simple as what you want to eat for dinner. How many times you say, I don't know, I don't care. What do we have? No, really. go inside and say, what do you really feel like eating?
And
And
honoring
if you
that inner
don't,
voice.
right.
Mhm.
And if you don't know, then take a while and figure it out. Form your opinions. Have opinions about things. Not to the point where you're opinionated, but just
Right.
know what you want and you desire out of life. When things don't feel good to you or right to you, why? Figure it out. When did it start? What is it making you? Why is it making you feel that way?
And
And
then,
when you're, go ahead.
and being able to create and hold a space for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Compared to some people, just they have no space for it. So that voice can't even begin to emerge.
Right.
Yeah.
And then your life is all about things. Things. I
Mm.
have to be successful because I have to have this thing. And
Hmm.
this thing and this thing and this thing because that's going to make my life better. And granted, things are great. They help us get through, whatever. We need a new thing because it gives us a little lift sometimes.
And it
And
can
and
be a
and that's
terrific
fine.
resource.
Right. Um, but you have to be okay without the things. You have to find it, what do you when you ask the question, what do you want? I want a new car. Well, sure,
Mm.
everybody wants a new car, but what in you is making you want a new car? Are you embarrassed of your car? Are you feeling less than? Are you feeling like you don't measure up? What's making you want that new car?
Yeah, that's a really powerful question. What do you
So,
want? Because people sometimes won't answer it completely on or honestly, and because
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the other thing that's interesting in society is when things get reversed, like loving things and using people compared to loving people and using things. And so then if their life
Right.
is filled with things, they don't understand, well, why does my life feel empty right now? But if they've never been able yet to
Mm-hmm.
develop the sense of what it is to love people, and even the right people, not the toxic people, for instance, or people that don't have their best interests, that's also some like an
Well,
area that, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that's so important to love the right people. And, you know, I, it's really important, as we know, to surround ourselves with people that want the best for you and are going to lift you up and are going to celebrate you. And I found, as I've gotten older, that those people are less and less and less. And it's sad. It's really sad that there's, in that there are so many people that are unaware
Of their
that
impact on themselves and
that
others.
yeah, that are
Okay.
unaware of how they're speaking, what they're saying, how they're behaving, how it all affects the people around you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people, but what it means to me is that it's really important for people around me to be self-aware. Um, so I've, and that's it's not easy. You have to be really honest with yourself. You have to really be honest and say, how am I affecting the world around me? And being conscious that whatever you may say or do is going to affect the world around you. So make it a good thing. Make it good, you know? Um, so I've so I've worked on that a lot myself, but I also coach that too. You know, when you walk into an audition room, be the person, be that gorgeous, wonderful soul that you are. You know, if you bring that person with you, they're gonna notice you,
Yeah.
because and energy is felt whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
You
And it
know,
also can set people at
energy is
ease.
felt.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
moving on to the
That's
fourth
right.
question. So reality versus the image. I had brought up to you before we started recording about one of the things that can happen when somebody is on a stage and then they step off the stage. And I was joking with you about Red Jamie and the series Outlander. And I wondered if you would talk for a moment about if you've ever experienced the loneliness that comes with a character that you have played on a stage, and then let's say you run into an audience member in the public at a coffee shop or wherever in the public, and they can't see the difference between the real you and the scripted character.
You know, it hasn't happened to me a whole lot, but I tend to play characters that are larger than life, that are very, very powerful, very either funny or, you know, basically larger than life. And in real life, now anyway, I'm very relaxed, you know. So there was actually, I went to vote, and one of the guys that was behind the voter, I had just done a role in a local theater, and it was, the character's name was Masha, and she was this very stuck up performer that the world revolved around her, and she was a celebrity, you know. So when I went up, and we had masks on too, and the guy behind the counter recognized me from the show, and he said, "Oh my God, I loved you in Vanya, Sonia, Masha, and Spike." And I had glasses on, my hair was a wreck, and I just was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. How did you know?" You know. And he said, "Well, I recognized your eyes." And you know, it was a moment of, I felt like the character because I was being recognized for who I was or who I played in that moment. You know, but other, and also, and this is funny too. My husband and I did a show together where he played, it was called The Addams Family, and it was a musical, and he played Lurch and I played Morticia. And every time we went to this diner, the owner of the diner would look at my husband and go, like Lurch. But after a while, it was like, we're just coming in to eat some breakfast. How long is this joke going to go on? You know?
Yes, yes.
So I think, you know, I think people are really impacted by celebrity, and, you know, or seeing something and then having it come to real life is, you know, you have that fangirl or fanboy in you that like, oh my God, I met the person that was so great, and it lifts their spirits, you know. But it's never impacted me in a negative way. Never.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very positive because,
It's never. I know that there are many, many actors that it's impacted them in a negative way, but it hasn't with me.
Okay, wonderful. The reason I was asking is sometimes the next generation can find themselves underneath an image, whether it's the brand of the family or,
Yes.
you know, whatever circumstances they find themselves in. And then, you know, how do they make peace with, again, finding their route to authenticity and being able to get out from underneath that shadow where they get recognized as the character from blah, blah, blah. And a part of that can be positive with the nostalgia, but it's interesting because there is definitely a human reaction when somebody then in their mind forms an opinion of, oh, you were in that. And then that storyline gets connected with it. Yeah. And sometimes people don't always separate it because they're not thinking it through.
Yeah, you know, I actually had an experience like that with my parents. We lived in a small town I grew up in New York, and then we moved to a small town in Connecticut, and I was always associated with my parents, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing, and I hated it. I didn't rebel because I was a good girl, but I took it to. It probably took me until I was 30, and I was married, and I finally couldn't stand it anymore, and I blew my whole life up to get away from that image. I blew it up, and I moved to Florida
To start anew?
To start anew.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And nobody knew who I was.
Yeah.
So it was so empowering and so freeing. And it was kind of like a journey that I knew I needed to take because I couldn't go on the way I was living.
Yeah. I was just smiling a moment ago because I didn't know that you could relate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, that's another, that I won't air all my dirty laundry, but, yeah, it was pretty intense. I
Okay.
didn't like their image, what
Okay.
they portrayed. So
Okay.
I took it upon myself to change it.
Good for
And it was
you.
hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. So,
which probably makes you a very good coach also.
yes.
Yes. Okay. So moving on to the next question.
Okay.
So sometimes affluent individuals can be seen as celebrities, and as a side effect, more effort can be invested into maintaining appearances compared to developing other skills or areas of their life. And it only becomes a problem if a crisis comes. Like you had talked about before, if the money is always there and the lifestyle is always there, then the dream continues and the good times roll forward. So here's my question. And you can choose to answer this lightly or deeply, however you prefer. What areas have you had to develop off the stage in order to lead others now as their guide or as their coach?
I think being very human, being very down to earth, being honest, really understanding the art of communication. I've learned how to ask questions and always having a running dialogue of questions. Why did that happen? What are, really being able to listen to someone. And, listening is actually one of the biggest forms of, one of the biggest techniques in acting, is being able to really be able to listen to the other person so that you can respond the way the character would respond. But how many times have you been in a situation at a dinner or at a party or even with your good friend where they're not listening to you? They're not really listening. They don't really want to know. They just want to talk about themselves. So when somebody asks me how I am, I have to read them and say, do you really want to know, or are you just asking the question? So a lot of times I'll give them the short answer, because the worst thing, in my opinion, is watching somebody glaze over and they don't realize they're doing it. They're just thinking about either how they can add to the conversation, or they're thinking about the list of things they need to do. And somewhere along the line, they were told that they should ask somebody how they are.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've developed off stage is all of these qualities that make someone feel heard, feel cared for, feel empowered, feel good enough.
Yep.
Because that's so important. Just for somebody to tell you that you're good enough wherever you are, you know, and they won't always believe you, but you have to keep at it.
Yeah.
You have to remind them, you have to plant the seeds, you know, and it's not bells and whistles either. It's not like, rah, 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 you're so good enough. You know, I believe in you. It's being with them at the same place that they are.
Genuinely.
You know, genuinely. And, you know, it's one of the things, I don't know if you were still going to ask me about neurolinguistic programming.
Yes, at the very end. Yes, please.
Okay. But one of the reasons that I took the course in NLP is because I did the things that NLP teaches without thinking about it. When you are with a person, if you're matching them, if they're relaxed and you're relaxed, you're going to get more out of the conversation. If you're, you know, because like attracts like. So I've always been able to read somebody, but what this has done is it's helped me to watch eye movements, watch body language, help people do something called reframing, which is also another buzzword of today. Reframing their thoughts about why this is the way this is. You know, okay, let's take that fear. What are you afraid of? You're afraid of cracking? You're afraid of your voice cracking? Okay, so let's imagine that you crack. Let's play out that scenario. What's going to happen? Let's see if you don't crack. What's going to happen? Let's play out that scenario. You know, and so what neurolinguistic programming has done is it's given me basically I guess a more solid tool set than the one that I was already using. Mm-hmm. I now have, you know, things that I was using instinctually, but now I have, you know, the real tools in the chest to say, all right, let me bring out this. Let's reframe that. Let's look at how are you feeling this? Is it in your head? You know, let's get it out of your head and put it into your body type of thing.
Good, to add to your real life experiences.
Right.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So this is wonderful and you are good enough. And in closing, I've got one of two questions, or you can answer both if you like. What would you like your legacy to be? And or what are your top 3 values?
Well, I can probably answer both because I've thought about them both. You know, one of the reasons that I started Impact back in 1995, I started Impact Dance and Drama. And Impact, so when I sat and I thought about it, I remembered every single teacher that I've ever had in my life, and the ones that had a positive impact and the ones that had a negative impact. And like I said earlier, I always want to be the teacher or the mentor or whomever you needed when you were a child, or, you know, I want to be that person for you. So my legacy is that when you think back to your time with me, when you think back to what I taught or the seeds I planted or the tools that I've given you to live your best life, that you remember me as being one of the people in your life that has had an impact, a positive impact on you. And my 3 qualities,
or top 3 values, sure.
3 values are honesty, compassion, communication. Those values have made my life so much better, have saved me in so many situations. And I think that the clients that come to me can see that and feel it, that there is honesty between us, that there is compassion between us, and that there's communication, which is it's the most important thing. If you can communicate effectively and clearly without being angry or upset, without being with taking the other person into consideration, not putting them on the defensive. If you can say, I hear you, I want you to listen to me just for a little bit, and be able to get out or communicate your needs, the world would be a totally different place. So, I that's how I want to be remembered. That's how I want, and I'm actually friends with my students from 25 years ago. They're all grown with families, and it's been amazing. So I hope to continue that.
Good. And where can people find you on the internet?
Well, my website is my name, www.melanieveazey.com. And I hang out mostly on Instagram under the Instagram handle Impact Coaching and Wellness. And that's it. I have Facebook, but I don't go on it very much anymore. But you can still find me on there if you need to.
Okay.
And that's it. That's where you can find me. I'm here.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to offer your wisdom, your insights, and what you think are what individuals need to know today, given the layers of, how much we hear on social media, and just to let them know that you can guide them and navigate them as a resource that is available. And so in digging through some of the, all the clutter that can be found on the internet and so forth, I thought it was valuable to have a one-on-one conversation to dive into, what I had called 5 kind of tougher areas, 5 topics that I think are relevant today. And also just, again, to have a deeper conversation and not just talk about not that there's anything wrong with your 3 favorite books or so forth, but I just wanted to dive in deeper. So thank you so much for having this conversation, and I really appreciated your participation.
Oh, my pleasure. It was wonderful. What a great conversation.
Okay.
Absolutely.